I don't think I am prone to stress.
Oh, I think I do get stressed.
I try to give an outward appearance of being laid back.
Stressed.
Laid back, I would say.
Pretty stressed.
I wouldn't say laid back.
Prone to stress.
Don't act surprised, you know exactly what you did.
Is there nothing out of this group of people, there's nothing that you want to know?
Don't stand outside. I'll call you back in when you're actually going to be quiet.
Do you think stress is killing you? Well, you might be right. In this programme, we are looking at the hidden physical toll stress can take on our bodies. And our experts are going to show us ways of spotting the warning signs of burnout.
Stress comes in so many different forms. It can come in physical ill health, it can come in mental ill health, it can come in poor health behaviors, constantly drinking alcohol, excessive amounts of alcohol, smoking, bad diet, lack of exercise. It can come in behavioral terms like difficulty concentrating, being more socially withdrawn, being more aggressive with people. It comes in a whole range of forms, but it is certainly a risk factor to many quite serious diseases like heart disease. A lot of research now being done on its link to cancer and to immune system failures. Constant colds, constant flus, making yourself vulnerable. So stress is out there, and stress is not good for you.
In January 2007, King's Langley Secondary School hosted an extraordinary week-long series of experiments into the physiology of teacher stress. We measured teachers' heart rate, respiration, blood pressure, and the levels of the stress hormone cortisol. In addition, in the first study of its kind, the entire staff's DNA was sampled and analysed in an attempt to determine their genetic propensity to stress.
Can I show you at this point here how to take the swabs? There's a cotton bud at the end, and the idea with this cotton bud is just to put it on the inside cheek and spin it around 360, then straight into the container again. It's a DNA extract that measures your disposition to be anxious or not.
It was no surprise that around 75% of the staff had what might turn out to be the worry gene. Science teacher Tamara Gazarian was one of this group.
It's just really funny that the actual DNA said that I was really anxious and prone. And then I thought about it, and it's very true. I am very anxious and I am very prone to things of that nature. I mean, first thing in the morning, running through the entire day in my head, knowing what I'm going to do next and what's going on. And it's almost a thing that I've always had and that I like having.
Her colleague Jeff Shepherd teaches geography, PE and business studies. While he appears relaxed on the surface, will he prove to have hidden signs of stress? Perhaps not, since he's in the other group to Tamara, having the gene that theoretically makes him less susceptible to stress.
He has the hardy anxious resistant genotype. He is the CC type, which would indicate that in our other populations that they're unlikely to experience anxiety.
This finding certainly coincided with how Jeff saw himself.
Someone somewhere just towards the middle, but towards the side of laid back, I would say.
I've never known him to have a cross-word or a bad word to say about the youngsters or the school. It's the sort of person that you want.
So this suggests that a stress-resistant gene does exist, or does it?
We all look for the magic bullet. We hope there's a gene, and then we can splice that gene and deal with that gene, right? My own view is probably we're not going to find it, but I'm open. If you can find it, gives you a predisposition, that's fine. But that's only a predisposition. Whether you ultimately get a stress-related illness will be, to some extent, it could be partly genetic, but it'll be all the environmental factors that operate you.
I may be proved wrong, but I doubt very much that there is a gene that determines whether you get stressed or not and what sort of damage stress does to you. I think a lot of stress is about how you've learnt to see the world, how you've learnt to respond to the world, how you've learnt to behave. And it's much more about nurture than it is about nature.
The jury's still out on the validity of a genetic predisposition to stress. Certainly in Jeff's case, his physiological readings conflicted with his laid-back demeanour and possible genetic inheritance. Not only was his blood pressure high, but he was demonstrably under pressure, as can be seen by his heart and respiration rates, read by an intelligent vest.
Now Mark, we're getting readouts from Jeff's vest there, and his heart rate is showing just over 100. Would you expect to see that?
Well, interestingly, I mean, it's fairly similar to the heart rate that we saw this morning when he was doing his PE class. And when we would have thought he's probably moving around a bit more in the PE class than he is at the moment. So he's possibly finding this a little bit more mentally demanding than the PE class.
Another measure of Jeff's stress is the level of the hormone cortisol, which rises in the body in the face of a perceived threat. Samples were taken every hour throughout the working day and at the weekend when he should be more relaxed.
There you go, chaps.
Jeff Shepherd. Okay, he was our PE and geography teacher. He's very experienced. He's been teaching for 20 years, but
outwardly very calm.
Outwardly, that's very interesting because, as in some of the people, nearly all of the people, we see this expectation, this anxiety, that anticipation at the beginning with very high cortisol levels in the morning. His are really very, very high for a sustained period of time in the morning.
Right. Okay.
So it wasn't just a momentary sort of stress response. It's more sustained than that and a bit more worrying. And he maintains this for over 2 hours, these very high levels. So just to put some numbers on that, we're talking about 30 units and it should be about 5 units. It's not all bad news because he does drop remarkably quickly, and back after this particular stressful period here, he does recover and regain normative values. Yeah.
Now, what was going on in Jeff's morning to explain that?
Well, what happened yesterday morning, if you remember, it was snowing. And so their lesson plans changed very drastically. They had to move out of the field and into a gym, and then he had to share the gym with James, and it was a very crowded lesson. I don't know if that could explain it.
All of these findings came as something of a surprise to Jeff.
I found out that I was under more stress than I actually feel that I am. And obviously those indicators don't lie. I think sometimes people their stress levels might go up because they're on camera or because there are people in. But nevertheless, that wouldn't explain all the high level of stress that obviously I was under during that week.
But that wasn't the end of the story. Before the week of experiments even started, Jeff, along with the entire staff, had filled in questionnaires that looked at their strategies to cope with stress. So what did his answers reveal?
For his negative coping, he was markedly high on all measures of negative coping.
And what kind of measures are they? What do you mean by negative coping?
Well, such as bottling up issues or emotions, and in Jeff's case, he was very strong in terms of denial, not recognising perhaps that there were issues or problems he needed to deal with. Right. Now, what we also see is on the positive coping strategies is that ways in which we tend to deal with that is by tapping into good support networks. People who may be able to offer us advice, or people who may be able to offer us some kind of emotional support. In Jeff's case, he's very low on seeking that kind of support. Now, it may be because he's a man, it may be because of his personality, it may be that he just doesn't feel able to express this.
People can feel the need to cover up for their anxiety, for fear of prejudice.
Because it's saying, I'm not coping. And they just don't want to tell their colleagues they're not coping. And they don't certainly want to tell their head teacher or any senior person that they're not coping. And so although it's a topic that's discussed in the media and elsewhere a lot, there's still a large number of people who won't admit that they've got problems and they're not coping terribly well.
All these indicators of Jeff's high stress during the teaching day were even more surprising given his rigorous weekly exercise regime.
I play golf a couple of times. I would also swim 2 or 3 times, and typically I'll be down the gym 3 times.
Exercise does not solve your stress problems. What exercise does, like nutrition, it gets you into the state to actually look at the nature of the problem that's causing you the stress and think of alternative solutions to sorting it out. It's a temporary palliative. Useful, helpful, keep yourself physically fit. It also relieves some of the tension and gets you to focus in better on the problem, but it doesn't solve the problem.
Jeff recognised that, although fit, he couldn't ignore his body's warning signs.
I went to see my doctor the week after, and I had my blood pressure taken. And my doctor said my blood pressure on that occasion, as it was before when I went to see her, was well, what she described as perfectly within the acceptable range, is what she said to me.
So, good news for Jeff. He may be stressed at school, but he doesn't take it home with him. And now he's aware of the danger, he can take action. However, some experienced teachers become increasingly stressed throughout their careers and are at risk of burnout. So what are the warning signs?
Becoming more aggressive, becoming more socially withdrawn, losing your sense of humor, having difficulty concentrating, difficulty making decisions. It could come in any number of behavioral forms. The thing to notice is, have other people observed in your behavior a major change? Carrie, I've noticed that you used to come out and have lunch with us. You're never coming out and having lunch with us. Carrie used to be very decisive. You're no longer. You dither a lot. Carrie, you had a great sense of humor. You're much more socially withdrawn. You're much more aggressive and angry in meetings. That change of behavior over a period of time should indicate that you're getting near the dividing line between ordinary pressure and your inability to cope with that pressure, i.e. you're now in the stress zone.
In order to prevent burnout, you need to spot it before it reaches that stage. So spot it at the point at which you're getting exhausted, rather than letting it then deteriorate down into burnout.
Sadly, I speak to many teachers in their 50s who are just tired. They're tired mentally, they're tired emotionally, their stress levels are high. In some cases, they've just given up. Not in every case. I can think of some absolutely fantastic teachers in that end of their career. I would be very interested in strategies that help people maintain that kind of energy and that kind of vision for the long haul throughout their career.
One very simple strategy is to remind yourself of the good aspects of the job.
I think it's partly about reconnecting with why you're doing it, why you want to be a teacher, your value system, your aims, and keeping those fresh, so perhaps reviewing them.
Actually, the thing that I have increasingly found useful for me is actually reminding myself what my core purpose is and what the core purpose of the school is, and that is educating students, ensuring their safety and happiness and preparedness for adult life.
So if you hate Mondays, what should you be doing?
To try to avoid burnout, I think what the individual teacher has to do is say to themselves, okay, number one, what is it that's causing me this? Is it the fact that I'm just working these really excessively long hours?
It's the one thing that really affects your ability to teach, and that is being tired. If you come in tired, you are going to have bad relationships with people, you're going to snap at people, you're going to be effectively guaranteeing yourself a bad day. You've stacked the odds against yourself before you start.
So you say, I leave school 3:30, 4 o'clock, I go home, but I'm only going to work till 5:30 at 6, that's it. On homework and everything else, I'm stopping at 6 o'clock.
I actually say to newly qualified staff, I'd rather personally come in a bit underplanned, but fresh and on the ball, than completely planned and having worked very hard, but exhausted so that I can't actually deliver the plans.
Don't take out of context all of the little teeny pressures on you so that they damage either your health, your family, your relationships, or your performance at work. Contextualize it, think about it, try to resolve problems, and it is not life-threatening. But it will be life-threatening if you let it trouble you.
If you would like further information on stress busting, go to the resources page on our website, teachers.tv/stress.